interacted with each other, it was always a mutual relationship, and a mutual relationship for survival. When in the beginning of the season, when you needed to dig out the acequia, everyone would chip in in digging it out. Everyone would stop what they were doing and go over there and help out. Let's say there was someone that was sick that year and couldn't help out. Everyone would pick up the slack. Maybe they would go and help plant that person's field if they couldn't do it that year. Maybe take care of their family or support them in some way. And this is the way that mutualismo works in these communities. The next one is querencia. And querencia means the deep connection that a group or a person has to the land, and it's so deep that it is part of that person's identity. So I'll say, yeah, I'm Alicia, this is what I do, blah, 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 and I'm from Las Vegas, New Mexico, and I'm from Torreon, New Mexico. This is deeply rooted in who I am because these are the people that I come from and the area that they worked on for generations. It's really deeply rooted in a person. And in the Acequia society, it creates this common force that everyone can get behind. I'm from this land, I want to irrigate this land, I want this land to be as beautiful and as vibrant as possible because we have that mutualismo relationship with the land. That's querencia, that's that feeling that you get in the land that you're from. And it doesn't have to be just where your family's from, it could be a place that you move to and you feel that querencia in that place. The last part of the structure is resolana. A resolana is a place in the community where it's dedicated to communities gathering. In the past, it was a plaza, it was the church. A plaza is like the middle area of the town where everyone would get together and have parties or have meetings or have ceremony. And this was known as the place of gathering. People would hang out here throughout the day and maybe still in Mexico, people walk around in the plazas and you could find vendors there and it's a beautiful sight. Now, our plazas here in New Mexico belong to the tourists, which makes me really sad that that's all we see there. And today, our resolanas are places that I see McDonald's. My grandpa would go every morning to McDonald's to get his cup of coffee and hang out with his friends in McDonald's and talk about the day that happened the day before, or shopping malls. That's where I see teens hanging out all the time. That's where I used to hang out, having people walk by and you're like giggling or whatever. But it's a place where you would hang out. And this is integral to community organizing because you have that place that's dedicated to community. And then you could have meetings there and it just kind of creates that culture of community being together. So if you look inside the image now, I'm going to be talking about those four concepts. And those are like the grasa of it all, like the meat, the insides of Acequia society. History, intergenerational, communication, and spirituality. History comes very, very first, because if you don't know where you came from, you're going to have a hard time finding out where you're going. If you figure out where you came from, if you're told where you come from, if you hear the stories from the past, you have this running start of how to start your life. You know where your family came from, you know the stories and the morals and the ethics that your family believes, and it gives you something to go off of. It gives you that sense of like, okay, that's what they believe now, does that fit in with me, or am I going to change that for my future? If you don't, it's kind of you're starting from square one. And that's how I felt. I didn't really get to learn my history until college. I mean, I got here and there, I knew I was from New Mexico, but everything that's happened in New Mexico is definitely not taught to us.
Yeah.
My language was not taught to me. We don't get to hear that and see that a lot in our lives, especially as people of color, and we need that so that we know where we're coming from. That is why history is first. It also brings back the traditions, like I'm telling you here in La Acequia. I'm relearning that for myself, which makes me feel really good. Part of that is the intergenerational relationship, that our elders are sharing this history and this knowledge with us. They're sharing these skill sets with us. And that might be by a story told by the campfire or over a meal, But that also is through working in the field with your grandparents or your parents. That's also viewing a partera as they're bringing a life into the world, and you can see how that happens. A partera is a midwife. And so you're learning while you're watching. It's experiential learning. So our elders bring in this knowledge, and our elders, anyone older than us. It could be my parents, it could be an older sibling, it could be my grandparents. And the young people bring in the modern ideas. What new technology, what modern philosophy has been brought to light that we can apply to what we're learning from our elders. And we are constantly creating this cycle of knowledge being shared, and it's not lost because we're continually sharing it. It creates a sustainable system of sharing information. The next part of that is communication. We need to communicate. We need to have our meetings, share our calendars, and I'm talking, these are the ways that we communicate with each other. Social media is a beautiful tool, but it's not only on social media. The movement happens a lot of other places. And it is through really good communication that all of this stuff happens, that our vision is formed, that we figure out the pathway to make this vision come to fruition, and have this beautiful community together. And it's also about celebration, not just thinking about what's going to happen, but celebrating where we come from so that we remember that it sticks in our mind, oh yeah, we did that thing because we celebrated it, we danced, remember? The last part of this is spirituality. And the spirituality is the ritual, the common understanding, the rhythm, the ritual that every single year we know we can read the seasons, we can read the mountains, we can read the snow, and know when the snow is going to melt so that we can prepare to dig out the acequia. We know that it's time to clean up the ditch. We know that we need to plant the seeds right now because look at the sun, look at the mountains. We have a common understanding with each other that we all need to partake in this. And this is the rhythm of life. We're tapping into the rhythm of the seasons, we're tapping into the rhythm of the weather, and we're tapping into the rhythm of each other to get this job done because it's important for all of our survival. Every single person is here today because our ancestors were in tune with each other's rhythm. And this is letting our past emerge so that we can learn from it. I didn't know any of this. I didn't grow up knowing about the acequias. I'm not a person that has worked on the acequias every single year. But I have learned this, and I have let this history emerge through me. And I've learned so much for myself through it. And I've also seen how it can be applied to the community organizing that I'm doing currently. Make it stronger because it has been happening for the past 500 plus years. That's why we're here today in this room. Last year, or I guess it was earlier this year, 90% of the funds were cut from acequias in New Mexico. And it was a veto by our governor to not give our acequias that money this year. A lot of times, people who dig out the acequias, who are taking care of them, maintaining them, are getting paid to do so now because it is a full-time job to take care of them. It's a very hard work. But now that money is not going to be going there anymore. So that is my urge, is to keep this tradition going, is to keep this knowledge being shared, and to keep that money flowing to acequias, because in this society, we need money to do anything. So thank you, everyone, and I will be working on this for years to come, and I appreciate your ear. Thank you. Woo.
If anyone has questions for you, this would be a good time to ask. Now we're going to do questions after each one of you. Okay. So if any of you have questions about anything that Alicia presented, this is an amazing model that she's working on. It's going to be very powerful for community work. Those concepts that are within the Acequia tradition and philosophy that will be used, she's presenting, as she said, as a model for community organizing. And so if you have any questions,
So, I do some of this work with farming. How's it going bringing more young people like yourself into the actual hands-on action of food production and marketing and doing that kind of work? What can I learn from what you're doing to motivate young people to do this kind of work?
Okay, I'm not an expert. I'll share with you what I know. But so I see a lot of programs here in town that will bring the young people to the farms and like a really fun way. Like there's this guy in town, his name is Travis, and he'll go to schools and he'll have like huge assemblies with them, and he'll get them so pumped. Like he'll sing with them and he'll dance with them, and these are elementary students usually, and then he'll take them to the farm and say, okay, look at this cool plant. What do you think this is? Have you seen this before? And he gets them really excited about it. And a lot of schools now I see are implementing gardens in their own schoolyards. So then the kids get to see where their food comes from, how it's grown, and then they get to eat it. I think another part with the Acequias is maybe taking them for a walk down where the water comes from, to a river. Where does our water come from? It doesn't just come from a faucet. And going to dig them out. If you have acequias, that's here in New Mexico, but going to dig them out in the beginning of the year, the limpia, cleaning them out, and where does this come from, and being able to see the water flow down for the first time is a beautiful thing too. So I hope that answered your question.
Let me. To answer the question from another perspective, I'm going to use